What's up, guys? Good afternoon and welcome to Roma Theory. Roma 3, Pisa 0. Sorry for not going live yesterday evening, but I had a birthday party after the game. I was at the stadium. It was nice to be back. It was nice to just go at the stadium and distract yourself from the team itself and from the last results. We got the job done. Malin show. First hat-trick of the Serie A season, I read this morning. Scored by Daniel Malin, incredible player, incredible performance, incredible goals. But there's a very big but. Yesterday's game has been completely hidden away by what happened pre-game, which I wasn't aware being at the stadium, and what happened post-game. The indicator that comes out of yesterday's game is that what is happening behind the scenes at Trigoria is not healthy, and that the relationship between Claudio Ranieri and Giampiero Gasperini is not a healthy relationship at all, because what Ranieri said pre-game is embarrassing, and I'll get there in a second. What Ranieri said pre-game is something absolutely embarrassing, and now, you know, people won't attack what Ranieri said pre-game because it's Claudio Ranieri. If it was anybody else that said what Ranieri said pre-game, we would have asked for his head this morning. So, of course, you need to accept the fact that Ranieri has got consensus. You've got to accept the fact that Ranieri, in a way, can say whatever he wants because he knows that he's got the fans on his side, despite anything that he says, which I think is not the correct way to see this because as much as, you know, I love Claudio. If it wasn't for Claudio, we would be dead. And that's something that we all accept. That we all are honest to say. If it wasn't for that man, we would have been dead. But it's not acceptable to go pre-game and say what Ranieri said. And I will be very honest with you. I mean, what emerges from yesterday's game is very clear. That at the end of the season, it's either Gasperini or Ranieri. Both of them together are not staying. And this is where I say, if we choose Ranieri just because it's Ranieri, we're not a serious football club. And we need to remove this traditionalism, which is, you know, it's what characterizes this football club. You know, the traditionalism, the passion, and everything. But if we at the end of the season come across a scenario where it's either Ranieri or Gasperini, and we choose Ranieri, we're not a serious football club. We're not, and that's something that I want to pre-announce because at the end of the season, I think it will be Gasperini or Ranieri. I mean, yesterday it was war between the two. We're gonna get there in a second. I want to start off with the game because yes, I want to start off with the game because this is a match reaction. But I want to spend a lot of time analyzing with you guys what they both said to each other and just analyzing the situation and what comes next from yesterday. I mean, regarding the game, what I can say is that it was never in doubt. We were always going to win. Malin is world class. I think Malin yesterday scored some goals that, I mean, you know, you look at them and go, well, they're easy goals. They're not easy goals. That first goal and that third goal are the opposite of easy. That third goal, he doesn't even stop the ball. He like moves around it and then shoots first attempt. The second goal was a good little build-up play, and then Malin with the tap-in. Again, it was never in doubt. Pisa are not a good team. Pisa are basically relegated. Their team is Serie B level, so it was, despite the moment that we were living, it was never in doubt yesterday. The thing that I'll say is that I don't want to elude myself anymore. And yesterday we won, and now we're back one point from fourth spot, with Como playing Inter and Juve playing Atalanta. But I'll say it as it is. I don't want to elude myself anymore. I do not believe in that fourth spot. There is no part of me that believes in it. And I don't want to believe in it because if I do get back now all of a sudden believing in it after having given up on it, and then we don't get it, it's just going to be detrimental. So my advice is be very cautious. We need to try your best, and that's something that the team will do, and that's a guarantee. But from a fan point of view, I would say be cautious, because we still need to play the derby, we still need to play Atalanta, we still need to play Bologna away. We've still got complicated games, and I'm not saying that Champions League is impossible. It's not going to happen 100%. Let's just give up on the season. That would be the wrong mentality. But I also feel like it's so wrong all of a sudden after a win, comfortable win against Pisa, to go, we're back in it. And just getting that belief all of a sudden back out, which is good. That's what we need to do. But at the same time, it will be the reason of self-harm, because I still think we're not going to get Champions League at the end of the season. So yeah, look, the next game is crucial. If you win the next game, then I am inevitably going to get back believing in it. But what my point is, it's not a win against Pisa at home that will make me back. That will make my mind go, I'm back in it. I'm back believing in it. If you beat Atalanta as well, then I'll do it. Then everybody will do it. But now, no. We need to beat Atalanta first. And I'm not sure we're beating Atalanta, because Pellegrini got injured, Mancini's injured, Wesley's injured, Dybala's injured. Like, who are we starting with against Atalanta? I don't know. It's going to be problematic. But yeah, I mean, that's all I need to say about the game. Because yesterday's game has been completely, in a way, alienated by what happened, by what Ranieri said and how Gasperini responded to him, which I applaud Gasperini for, because if I'm the manager and somebody, the senior advisor of the football club, says what he said what Ranieri said pre-game, at the end of the game, I'm like, I would get pretty pissed. So I applaud Gasperini for, of course, Gasperini can't go, oh, fuck Ranieri, that he's a piece of shit, shut up, you old twat. No, that's not what he can do legally. He's contractually bounded to respect everyone. But, I would be frustrated, because this is where I bring you. What Ranieri said pre-game, guys, is absolutely embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. And now for newcomers that have just joined, the fact that it's Claudio Ranieri for me means nothing. Because I would have said this if it's Ranieri, I would have said this if it's Marotta, I would have said this if it's Conte being the senior advisor. Like, the fact that Ranieri has got the consent and the consensus, we can say, of the fan base, doesn't mean that he can say whatever he wants in front of the microphones. Because going in front of the microphones pre-game, not post-game, pre-game, in a game that was, under all effects, your last call for a Champions League hope, Ranieri goes in front of the DAZN microphones and says, and basically one of the first things that he says is, I'm the senior advisor to the club. I am not the senior advisor to the manager. At the end of last season, I prepared a list of 5 managers. 3 of them rejected us, and then the ownership chose Gasperini. Like, that is absolutely brutal. You have effectively and deliberately defined Gasperini as an utter scrap with these words. So, the fact that everybody knows that the relationship between Gasperini and Massara Ranieri is not healthy. We knew this probably ever since this summer came around. We knew that Gasperini is somebody that always asks more. And that's probably what this football club needs. But you can't go pre-game and completely and utterly demolish him like this. I am the senior advisor to the club, not the manager. I proposed a list of 5 managers. 3 of them rejected us, and then the ownership chose Gasperini. Like, you can't say that. Whether you're Claudio Ranieri, or whether you're Francesco Totti, or whether you're Paolo Di Canio, you cannot say that. You can't say that. You have defined him as a scrap. And again, I applaud Gasperini, because if Gasperini post game didn't reply frustrate Ranieri, I applaud him, because that sentence definitely would have led to frustration. If it was Conte would have declared a nuclear war against Ranieri post game. So Ranieri needs to be careful. But I mean, I tend to believe after what happened yesterday that both of them won't stay. Like the board, the owners will have to come to a conclusion of whether you want to keep Gasperini or whether you want to keep Ranieri. For me, it is absolutely embarrassing that every single time we want to build a project with this football club, people fall out. First, it was Mourinho with Thiago Pinto. Friction, tension. At the end of the adventure, nuclear war between Jose Mourinho and Thiago Pinto. De Rossi and Lina Soluku. Tension, friction, tension, nuclear war, let's sack De Rossi. And now, Gasperini, Ranieri and Massara. Friction, tension. And now the project feels like it will jump in the air anytime soon. And I tell you what the result of this is. This happens because the ownership isn't present, and because at Trigoria nobody sets orders. This is exactly why I say that the problem of this ownership is that they aren't present. Because if an ownership is present, these things don't happen. If you are in Rome, if you are inside the walls of Trigoria and you are the owner and you dictate, these things don't happen. If you were never here and let everybody rule like everybody wants, people will start jumping over each other. And this is exactly what is happening. What happened with Mourinho and Pinto, what happened with De Rossi and Soluku, and now with Gasperini and Ranieri and Massara. And I'm like, you see, you understand when I say we're seeing the same film every time, on and off the pitch, because you don't want to build something. And I go back to what Ranieri said, and I'm like, but weren't you the first one that in June, whenever there was that introductory press conference with Gasperini next to you, Ranieri was the first one to say, we need to give him time. We need to give this manager time. I chose Gasperini. I told the owners that we should focus on Gasperini to try and replicate what he did in Bergamo against Atalanta. And then 7 months after, you're like, oh, Gasperini was never my name. The owners picked him. I proposed a list of 5 names. 3 of them rejected us. Then the ownership chose Gasperini. You don't do this. And at least you don't say these things publicly. You keep these things to yourself. And I said this on the fan forum. I love Ranieri. Like Ranieri for me, like Ranieri is a legend. Nobody hides that. Ranieri loves Roma. Ranieri is Roma. Ranieri is everything that this club needs. But being Claudio Ranieri, and this is an important point. This is an important point because otherwise we won't grow. The fact that it's Claudio Ranieri doesn't mean that you can say whatever you want, and that's very important to understand. That's very important to understand, because what I reckon Ranieri thought before saying these things is, well, my relationship with him is not healthy. The fans love me, so never in any universe will this fan base play against me. I'm gonna say these things. I've got a problem with this manager. Then what happens. But I know that the fans will be on my side, and that's wrong because you're not thinking about the best of this football club, and that's what you should do. So, I said this on the fan forum. The fact that you're a club legend doesn't mean that you're competent and good at doing anything else. And that's a point that I want to stress. The other example is Totti. Sorry, let me just turn this on. The other example is Totti. After, the reason Totti hasn't been a part of Roma in recent years is because of this. Because if you are the legend of the legends of the club, it doesn't mean that you are good enough at doing anything else that helps the club with. So I am starting to feel the same way with Ranieri, because when you need to speak, you never speak. When you need to defend this club against referees, you never speak. When we fans need clarity about things, when us fans need clarity with referees, non-referees, internal problems, non-internal problems, these guys never speak. But when they want to cause tantrum, they release the bombs, and I don't accept that. I do not accept that. Sorry guys, this fucking sun is giving. Let me just turn this blind up. I don't understand what window the sunlight is coming from. I think it's this one. No? Well, how about this? Is this better? No. I'm like divided in half by the sunlight. It's like a divine appearance. What comes next for me is Gasperini of course replied. The other thing that Ranieri said is that it's not fair. Like what Ranieri said is that it's not fair for the manager to only boast about Malen and Wesley and not the other players, because every single player that we bought, Gasperini had a say on. Now, I, without a doubt, agree on the fact that every player that you signed, Gasperini gave his okay on. But I also don't believe that every player that you signed was a player that the manager asked, and that the manager only said okay to because he understood that otherwise you wouldn't have gotten anybody to replace him. I believe this. I believe this is my theory, and I've been saying this theory for the past months. There is never in a million, there is no book that I read that will convince me that Gasperini, Massara and Ranieri sat down and Gasperini went, I want Zaragoza. There's just no part of me that believes this. There is no part of me that believes this. There is no part of me that goes, Ranieri, Massara and Gasperini sat down this summer and Gasperini was like, I want El Anawi. No. So what Ranieri says is partially true, because the manager at the end will have to give his final green light. But a lot of the players that you signed are not players that the manager asked for. They are players that the manager gave his final green light on because you had no alternatives. So again, having said this, I don't think this is the way forward. You knew that appointing Gasperini meant war, because Gasperini has been like this for his 10 years at Atalanta, for his 8 years at Genoa. Gasperini demands. Gasperini expects. Gasperini always wants more. Gasperini hammers. Gasperini is a hammer. This is who he is. So, if at the end of the season, the owners will have to come to a conclusion and go, do we keep Gasperini or do we keep Ranieri? You keep Gasperini. But that's something that I want to make 100% clear. 100% clear. If you, let's roll the cinema. I'm going to say something very provocative. If at the end of the season, you get rid of Gasperini, or you force Gasperini to resign, because if Gasperini resigns, ultimately, it's not your decision, but it's because of you, because he understands that you can't go on like this. So if next season, Gasperini won't be your manager, you, board, Dan Fredkin, Ryan Fredkin, Claudio Ranieri included, and, Massara, you have lost me, in all credibility. Because you wanted to build a project with De Rossi and you let your egoism go, no, I would rather keep Suluku, who then resigned after a month. So that project with De Rossi, which you all wanted to invest money on, didn't happen. Following season, let's build a project with Gasperini. Let's make Roma the new Atalanta. Let's bring Gasperini and try to replicate what he did at Atalanta. If at the end of the season Gasperini leaves, you've lost me. And there's no way back. You've lost in all elements of credibility. So, this is what I say. If you, at the end of next season, don't have Gasperini sat on your bench, don't speak about projects to me anymore. Don't you dare speak about 3-year projects, long-term projects to me anymore. Because you fucked 2 of them up without any explanation. So if Gasperini leaves, don't you dare speak to me about project anymore. You do one thing. You get the phone, you get Jose Mourinho back on this bench, and you fuck the long-term projects, and you focus on instant success. That's what you do, and that's the promise that you make me. Because if you fuck up another 3-year project after 1 year, I'm sorry, but why are we still insisting on projects? That's the stance I take on this. The stance I take on this is this. You've tried it with De Rossi and you gave up after 6 months. You tried it with Gasperini and you gave up after 1 year. Let's stop doing these things. You clearly are not ready to sustain managers, to back managers over the long term and back them. So you might as well just bring somebody that doesn't require time, build a team around him, and try to win something instantly. Otherwise, what are we here to do? So this is my stance. Look, Gasperini is not exempt from blame. He's not. He's absolutely not. But I strongly believe, and I strongly put my name on this, that if you let go of Gasperini, I give up. I honestly give up. I give up because I give up. I just give up. So it's Ranieri who needs to leave if it's a him or him scenario. It's not Gasperini. And I don't care whether it's Claudio Ranieri. As I said at the beginning, I care about Roma. I care about this football club. This is not Claudio Ranieri FC. This is not Francesco Totti FC. This is not Daniele De Rossi FC. This is Roma. So if you need to shoot one of the two, it needs to be Ranieri. Not in that sense, of course. But if you need to get rid of one of the two, it needs to be Ranieri. It can't be Gasperini. Okay? What else? I think I've said everything. I think I've said everything. Tensions are high. Tensions are high because what happened yesterday was very avoidable. What happened yesterday is not tolerable. And what happened yesterday clarifies to you that the relationship between the senior advisor, the sporting director, and the manager is not healthy, and that they don't agree on points, that they have clashed, and that the relationship has deteriorated. So we'll see where we go. But I'm like yesterday. What happened yesterday has left me a bit of unclarity, I would say, because I don't know what to expect next. I don't know what to expect next. I really don't. But yeah, we got the job done. That was the important thing yesterday. Great Malin. We're back 1 point from Como. We'll see what they do against Inter and what Juve do against Atalanta, and then we move. But it pains me to say that. Also because what happened yesterday now will be the target for media outlets to destroy this football club even more. So it was just such an avoidable situation that if it wasn't avoided, it means that Ranieri wanted to speak and say these things. And it means that the relationship is not a good relationship, because otherwise you would have kept these things to yourself. I see a lot of hypocrisy. That's what I would end it on. I see a lot of hypocrisy And I see a lot of non-truth, because what we've been told about this manager 6 months ago is now the complete polar opposite to 6 months after. And that to me means that you're incoherent and inconsistent and hypocritical. Okay, I'll catch you soon. I'll mirror a few comments and then I'll end it. Se vinciamo le prossime 2 partite forse andiamo in Champions. Inter vs Como is important for us. La Roma viene prima di tutto e Ranieri non doveva permettersi di fare quelle dichiarazioni. Concordo. Unfortunately, it's true that older men don't have a filter as they get older. They speak out and think they have said nothing. Yeah, true. I mean, Ranieri is still... We always need to remember that Ranieri is an oldie. And we love him. Like, I don't want to now look all of a sudden as the guy who is disrespectful to Ranieri. No, I love the man, absolutely. But you can't say certain things. You can't. Whether you are the president of Italy, whether you are Donald Trump, who, I mean, let's not get political, but doesn't have breaks when it comes to saying things. Whether you're Messi, whether you're, Federer, whether you're LeBron James, whether you're the president of Australia, like, you have got limits. And what Ranieri said pre-game went over every limit, because that's not how you speak. That's it. Everton is going to qualify for Europe. What if we also go to the Europa League? I don't know, but I've said it. I think if you don't get Champions League, you need a year without Europe. I'm starting to believe that the only way out, if you don't get Champions League, is a year without anything. So, as much as I love the Europa League, I tend to believe that if you get in it, just don't get in it and try something new, because otherwise it's the same cycle every time. Malen was moving like prime or 9. De Rossi was also asking for left winger. They signed a centre mid. Spero che Ranieri vada a fare il CT della nazionale, Gaspini rimanga allenatore e che venga accontentato il più possibile sul mercato. If we got Paixão or Rowe or even Nusa in the summer, this season would have been totally different, says Romeo. Okay, I'll catch you soon. Let me know your comments and I'll speak to you soon. Simo out.